behalf of the chairman, Senator Ayotte, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank you both for your service and leadership for the country. Just to briefly weigh in on this funding issue, what's been most disappointing to me as someone who supported the bipartisan budget agreement is that the defense appropriations bill passed within that cap set by the bipartisan budget agreement unanimously out of the Appropriations Committee. So both parties agreed with the funding on defense. Then it came to the Senate floor, and it's been blocked multiple times because it's being held hostage to other issues. So just to be clear, what you're asking for, it's there. And it's just disappointing to people like me and others here, because the priority of defending this nation and having the funding for our troops and what you need to do should be our priority no matter what. So, as I hear this kabuki dance, it's obvious. We passed an appropriations bill. It was completely bipartisan within the budget caps. So why is it being blocked? I was proud to vote for it. I'd vote for it again tomorrow, and I just wish we'd get it done for you and our men and women in uniform. I wanted to shift gears here and ask about Iran. And General Dunford, does Iran continue to be one of the lead sponsors of terrorism around the world?
They are, Senator. I describe their major export as malign influence.
And are they continuing to test ballistic missiles that is quite troubling to both us and our allies, and I think in violation of UN resolutions?
They are, Senator, as well as provocative behavior in the Gulf.
Exactly, that our military has encountered in the Gulf just recently.
That's right, Senator.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask about is recently we learned that the $1.7 billion in cash relief has actually gone, that the administration has provided Iran, has actually gone directly to the Revolutionary Guard Corps. I don't know if you were aware of that. And in fact, the Iranian parliament, or their equivalent of their legislative body, passed a law that essentially said if there was a settlement, a legal settlement from a foreign country, which is how this $1.7 billion has been characterized, it would go directly to the military. Does that trouble you that they're taking the proceeds that we're giving them and funding their military?
Senator, I wasn't aware of it. It doesn't surprise me that the Republican Guard would have a high priority for funding inside of Iran, but it certainly is troubling. The more funds that they have available, obviously, the more effective they'll be in spreading malign influence.
So, one of the things as I look at this is our, this relief that we're giving them. They're testing ballistic missiles. The money that they're getting us isn't going to the Iranian people. It's going to their Revolutionary Guard Corps that we know promotes terrorism and undermines stability around the world. And yet, as I see this situation, I don't see us taking any steps that we should in terms of being aggressive in coming back, especially on the ballistic missile program and their terrorism issues. So what should we be doing, General?
Senator, there's two things that I draw your attention to. First is our posture in the Central Command, which is, in fact, there both to deter Iran but also to respond to Iran should a response be required. Also, in the FY17 budget, and I expect you'll see similar requests in the FY18 budget, much of what we are focused on is dealing with what we describe as anti-access area denial. That's Iran's desire to keep us from moving into that area and then operating freely within that area. And many of the programs from a cyber perspective, from ballistic missile defense capability, strike capability, are all designed to deal with the threat of Iran in the region.
So let me just ask you, they're still testing ballistic missiles. Would you agree that's a grave threat and something that needs to be addressed in terms of our security? And this is all post-agreement that they're doing this. Agreed?
Absolutely, Senator, and that's why we've identified them as one of the 4 state challenges that we benchmark our joint capabilities against.
One of the things I wanted to ask your thoughts on, General, is that we've learned about this $400 million in cash that Iran got that would be included in the $1.7 billion that I referenced for release of the American hostages. And did you think that was a good idea? Were you consulted about that?
Senator, that would, in the normal course of events, not be something that would be in my lane, so I was not consulted.
Well, do you think it's a good idea that we should exchange cash to a country like Iran that you've already confirmed is one of the largest state sponsors of terrorism in exchange for hostages? Because as I look at this situation, they've now taken at least 3 more American hostages.
Senator, I just don't know the details of the agreement that was made with Iran and what the nature of that money was. On principle, I would prefer that we not provide additional resources to Iran.
So on principle, you'd rather them not have more money. And I mean, doesn't it worry you that as we think about exchanging cash with a country like Iran, obviously it was funneled through the European countries, and that in fact we're going to encourage more bad behavior from Iran, and we've seen some of it? Isn't that something we should be concerned about?
Senator, before whatever arrangement was made and after whatever arrangement was made, I'm under no illusion of what Iran is intending to do, nor are we mindful of the capabilities that they're developing as well.
Well, I hope, I've introduced sanctions legislation to address their ballistic missile program. I think this ransom payment issue is just deeply troubling, and it's just causing further bad behavior from Iran. We know they've taken further hostages, and I just hope that this administration will step up and finally address Iran's bad behavior.